So let's get started. Thanks again for coming, and thank you, Brooks, for the introduction. So I hope that this is going to be an interactive session for us, and feel free to put something in the chat if you have a question or raise your hand. We will have time to share, and I would love it if you would feel comfortable sharing. So let's see here. Let's get started on our journey. A free verse. So I wanted to just talk about the tools of the trade, or how I, try to prepare myself for writing. So I try to get in a comfortable space, maybe have some candles, incense, music, paper pens. I have, journals of all sorts, and also when you tell people you're a writer, they tend to give you a lot of journals. And of course, pens and pencils and things like that. But also, I will say that there are times when I'm in the car and I'm driving and I use my phone. I use the notepad. So I just want to encourage you to give yourself some space and maybe some quiet so that you can reflect and go to a vulnerable place so that you can write. Poets don't look a certain way. We're all capable of being poets. You don't just have to wear a beret and look up at the sky with your notebook. So I want to just encourage you that we all have stories to tell, and your story deserves to be heard. Right? It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable and to share with people your innermost feelings or things that have happened to you. So this is a safe space here today, but I want you to know that, try not to be afraid of writing things down. This is just a space for us to kind of check in and write some things down. One of the things I want you to do today is we all have a critic who likes to tell us that we can't do things, or we shouldn't, or we're not good at it, and things like that. So what I want you to do is I want you to tell them to be quiet and tell them to get in the back seat, because you're in the driver's seat today, and we're going to go on this journey together, and you're going to write some stuff down and explore some emotions and things that you maybe have wanted to do for a while. And we're going to write about a place to travel, like through the mind, body, and spirit, someplace you want to travel or have traveled before. So let's talk a little bit about free verse. I like free verse because it doesn't have a lot of structure. Sometimes I bristle at structure, like, oh no, I have to count and I have to do this and that. I do like haikus too because they're quick, but free verse has really suited me. And you can, as poets, there are poetic devices such as imagery or metaphors, comparing things, symbolism. You should have some sort of rhythm, but it's nothing that's specifically structured like a sonnet or a villanelle. And it allows some more freedom, just to get it out there, say what I want to say. And so try not to put any restrictions on what you're going to write today. And when you put a poem together, again, you don't need to rhyme. You can if you'd like, but it's important to put together a tight story and that expresses what you want to express. And I believe, for me, that by me writing, getting it out there, writing poetry, sharing it with others, that this connection that we have is really powerful, and it validates my feelings, and it also can validate maybe something that happened in your life. So I'm going to read a couple of poems to kind of get us started and maybe inspire your things you might want to think about today. And then we'll get started with writing, okay? Um, any questions so far? Let's see. I just want to even know if I can see. Um, I don't know. So Brooks, will they be able to see the slideshow at some or the recording afterwards?
Yeah, so these are being recorded and should end up on YouTube, but also I'm not sure if you as a presenter got the emails of who was attending. If you didn't, you can send me your slideshow and we can send them out via email. That's up to you, really.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be happy to do that. Okay, so this poem is about Door County, which is a beautiful place in Wisconsin, if you ever get a chance to come to Wisconsin. And it just so happened that the place we were staying, their last name was Door. So this poem is about staying with the Doors in Door County in bad weather. I laid down, exhausted from the day, the drive. We made it. I realized I loved the sound and smell of rain. Can't help counting the seconds between the flash and the thunder. I remember storms intense at Peninsula State Park. I was so brave back then. Why does the nearby dog bark at the falling drops? We all need more water in our lives. Next house will have eaves or trees to get wet. The windows will be open. I did a lot of camping when I was younger. I'm not so much a camping girl right now, but okay, this poem is about timing and just a little secret. I think I have secrets in each of my poems, but in this poem, um, there are certain aspects of it that are real, like the shirt and a man that I knew that had smoked cigars and things like that. But um, it didn't take place in the Keys as the poem indicates. So the reason I mention that is that I want you to think about you don't have to it doesn't have to be like this is what really happened. It can be in a different place. It's what you want to convey that's really important. So it's called The World Spins One Way. I docked at the shore of the quay, my hair long like before. I wore the white shirt because I knew you'd recognize it. Outside our former haunt, I smelled your cigar through open windows. How many nights did we talk for hours until the chickens ran down the street at dawn? Surprised to see me, you stood, so very tall. I'd forgotten how tall. We had everything to say, but had to go our separate ways without ever looking back. The world spins one way. This next poem is a little bit different than other poems that I've written. It's not published yet, but I wanted to share it because people seem to really relate to it, and it's just a different format for you if you wanted to start doing something like this, like listing out things. So it's called From Numbers to Stardust. It's 10 years since he died at 47 years old. I'm 54 years old, married at 32, widowed at 44. My son is 17 years old. My daughter is 20 years old. I own 26 acres. My shed is 50 by 100 feet. My house is 3,000 square feet, built in 2000. I have 2 burial plots with 1 headstone. My 2 dogs are 6 years old. I have been to Europe 2 times. I have 4 guitars, 1 is electric. I have published 2 books. I have 47 drinking glasses of various colors and sizes. I have 14 coffee cups. I have 28 candles, 6 of which I have lit. The list goes on, doesn't it? None of it can go with me to my state of stardust. As a poet, I don't really love numbers, but this seemed like a really good outlet for that. So the last poem I'm going to read to you is very short, and I give myself license to do very short poems that are very impactful. And this is always a crowd pleaser. It's called Narcissus. I'm glad you're in love with yourself. saves one of us the trouble. Someone wants to like that. So, okay, now to the fun part. Let's take a moment to travel. And I want you to think about, what do you want to write about today? What things do you feel but have never said out loud? But really, maybe now is the time to put it on paper. So I want you to take a couple of minutes and write down some words or sentences on a topic and start creating that word bank. And then this will help bring those feelings out into the world. So let's take 5 minutes, I think. So we will come back at 12:18 Eastern time. Okay, and don't remember the critics in the back seat. So leave them there and just write some stuff down. Okay. Well, so I wanted to ask if there are a couple of people that wanted to share how they feel, how it's been going. And I realize it's just been 5 minutes, but is there anyone that wanted to share um, on how they feel this is, is it difficult? Is it something that comes easy to you? Are you having any struggles? Can one? Okay. All right, a shy group. I get it. Well, let's go. Oh, I see some good exercise.
I wasn't sure if you needed to call me first or do I just jump in?
Just jump in.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me okay or is my volume a little low?
I can hear you just fine.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Because my thing has been a little wonky. Okay, so answer your question. How did it feel? Because I tend to overthink and I'm a bit trepidatious and new to writing, it felt hard, but it felt good because I'm in the room. You know, this is a supportive space, and so I just said, "Well, let's see what goes." So yeah, it was hard and good.
That's awesome. I got goosebumps. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep going, and I want you to stay the course. So you become a poet when you open yourself up emotionally, and you have the willingness to look inside and see things and feel things that impact you and the world. And I want you to just encourage you to keep writing. And maybe it's like the place that you're traveling to thinking about. It's, think about, close your eyes and think about the sights and sounds and smells of this area. Who is there? What was happening? um, and just describe some of the things that were going on there. um, Even, the colors of things, right? And once you capture this on paper, it's a really great start. And I don't want you to judge yourself like, oh, this isn't good enough. It's not something somebody would want to hear. I want you to just tell it like it is. It's so important that as humans, and particularly as poets, that you stand in your truth and tell it like it is. And I know for me, it's been, I'm a recovering people pleaser, so it's been a little tough for me. But, the more we do it and we find people who are supportive of who we are as we are, that's that's just a beautiful thing. So also don't forget to breathe. Sometimes I find myself holding my breath. So do that if you need to. Just take a moment. So let's continue. Let's do 10 minutes now. I see there are a couple comments. Let me look at the comments, please. We will definitely post. Okay. Okay. So let's take 10 minutes. And like I said, I want you to add some more detail, maybe some different words on how you think this particular thing went, or, um, think of an unusual way to describe it that you've never heard before. All right, so let's take 10 minutes and we'll come back at 12:32. Okay? And I'll give you like a 2-minute warning. Just a couple minutes left. Okay, let's come back to the workshop. Take a couple of deep breaths, maybe a drink of water or whatever beverage you have. So what I wanted to know is, how are you doing? Would anyone like to share how they're doing and maybe read a little bit of what they've written down? Oh, Lisa, another good session, got a full poem. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'd be glad to read if you wanted me to.
Okay, I would love that.
Okay. Actually, it's different. The first time I did something very short on a specific time and place. And the second session, I actually went to another place. The blacktop rolls between fences, hand-pounded posts, separating open fields, all empty in October. We are full from lunch at that little diner in that little town, and full of the day. Not one obligation at any one time, but you and me in your red pickup, seeing that barn, that church, those horses, each other for the very first time on this roll of blacktop between these fences in October.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. That was just amazing. I love it. The imagery is just stunning. And, I think we can all relate to taking that little trip and just relaxing and wherever it takes us. So that's so amazing. Thank you. I love the sights, the sounds, colors. It makes it so relatable for people. So let's see, we have MJ and Brooks. So MJ, you want to go first? Okay.
There it is. Okay, I was trying to get myself off of mute. Cool. Here we go. I love coffee. I love coffee because it reminds me of the start of a new day. It reminds me of sitting at the table with my grandmother. I love coffee. Coffee, when mixed with milk, is a beautiful brown, just like my complexion. It reminds me that we're both beautiful in the morning. I love coffee. When I drink too much, it can make me jittery. Sometimes too much of me can make others jittery, but I love coffee. Coffee, the smell, the taste, the nostalgia, can be bittersweet, just like the truth. I enjoy my coffee with oat milk and coconut sugar. Steamed milk, please. I like the top to be a little frothy. When the budget permits, I go to local cafes to request a latte. Admittedly, here in Brooklyn, an oat milk latte is $6.50. Add a vegan chocolate chip cookie and bingo, you've now spent $11. Did I mention I love coffee? Recently, I had a rose latte. It was oddly satisfying. A fellow coffee lover in the cafe shared her love for lavender lattes. Who knew floral coffees were a thing? I smiled and exhaled for the sweet fellowship. That was the end.
Thank you for sharing. I just, yeah, right. I just, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I just, bittersweet, like the truth. I mean, mm, that's some good stuff there, MJ. Okay, Brooks, did you want to
Thank
share?
you.
Yeah, MJ, I loved that too much of me makes other people jittery. That was my favorite part of that writing. That was so good. Okay, here we go. Honeysuckle. I smell it before I see it. Look around for creamy white peach blooms. Find them. I see little self hugging side of road, pinching, pulling flower bottoms between fingers, thumb, and pointer, licking up tiny drops of nectar. Syrup growing wild in middle of city. Girl growing wild in middle of city. That's it.
Those last two lines. That's really, you brought us in, you're talking about honeysuckle, but then just the end is just like boom. And so it's terrific.
Thanks.
I always like it when I can, like at the end, it can be like pow, something to give the reader to think about. So, does anyone else want to share?
Yes, I'll share.
Okay.
All right. So travel. This is called When in Rome. In the heat of summer, we took a cruise across the Mediterranean. 2 weeks seemed not long enough to explore the last few thousand years. We ate and drank our way through cobblestone alleyways, the sun beating on our skin and the smell of gelato and pizza in the air. We watched two women make pasta. Oh, the stories their hands could tell, while we indulged in their rich traditions. I now order Aperol Spritz everywhere I go.
I love it. It makes me want to go to Italy. I love it when you're talking about the hands have a lot of stories to tell. That's just that's beautiful. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Aperol Spritz Friday night. All right. Okay, let me just see. Yeah. Yeah, I hope everyone's looking at the chat to see wonderful comments that people are. I love it. I love it when I'm in a workshop like this and people are, put comments in to encourage others and, comment because, as poets, you're going to this very vulnerable place and, then sharing on this call and it's like you kind of maybe you're a little nervous like oh boy what's somebody going to say about that right and so it's always nice to get that validation and okay so the folks that read excellent and thank you for sharing and what I want to do is I want you to take a few minutes and to edit your what you've written down and maybe some of you have already created like this tight scenario where there's not extra words or things like that but I want you to see if you can tweak it a little bit and take out any unnecessary words maybe change the lines where they're at my editor Simon always says what's a fresh word we could use here and I always think so I oftentimes go to the thesaurus, just full disclosure. But, try to create a line that is unique and, has not been put together before. I know it seems like a tall order, but I know that you all are capable of it. So, you know, like I said, move things around. Sometimes when I put a poem together, it's like I'm telling this or that, but it's not in the right order, you know? So just do some of those things and um and still tell your story. And I loved some of you had some repetition, you know, and I think that was great, especially MJ with your coffee and just like bringing it back. So that's great too. But let's take 5 minutes. So 11:45 or 12:45, sorry, Eastern. We'll come back. So maybe make it 4 minutes. So come back in 4 minutes. Okay. One minute left. Okay. Let's come back. And so I wanted to know if anyone wanted to share again on how you were able to kind of edit or change things up in a way that, you know, made you feel a little bit more comfortable with what you were saying. it's important to understand timing sometimes of the rhythm, and you could hear it from the people that were reading. What you don't want to have is, um, being too verbose sometimes, because you lose the reader and the person that's listening to the poem sometimes. So, and I also wanted to point out that today is not the last day for this poem. Maybe some of you think that it's done, but don't give up on things that you've maybe started, and just can't get through. Sometimes, it has taken me months to get through the final edit of a poem. So don't be hard on yourself. And I also want you to believe that your story and your words are worth hearing, because they are. So does anyone want to share? Mm-mm-mm. Sometimes I have a hard time seeing the little hands up.
Can
So
I
Lisa
share?
said,
Oh,
yes, go ahead.
hi, Carrie. So,
Okay.
do you want me to read what I wrote or share the process? I
So maybe tell us a little bit about your process, and then read what you wrote.
Yeah, so a lot of images came, so I just wrote them down in the word bank. And then I actually started already after that. And then we had the 10 minutes. I edited it two or three times. And then now I feel like I can't edit because I really need to sit with the words, get some clarification. Like you said, it's not done, so but I'm happy with what I come up with in the last 10-15 minutes.
Okay. Do you want to
Should I read?
share it? Yeah.
Okay, it's called Cooking in Paris. A friend I haven't seen in 20 years messaged me and said, let's do it, what we talked about. So we signed up for a cooking class at the famous cooking school in Paris. We'll go to Versailles and sit in the garden where Marie Antoinette had her tea, and afterwards hop on a bus and meander around Monet's water lilies. But not on the same day, we decided. Don't forget about the pickpocketers. Say no if someone asks you if you're an American. The last time I was in Paris, I brought back a raw rack of Korean barbecue in an ice bag. I wonder what I'll bring back this time.
Well, I can't wait to hear. Oh, that's awesome. Makes me want to go to Paris to the Cordon Bleu.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to share? I know, Lisa, you said you'd done some editing. Did you want to share what you have? No pressure.
Sure. I wasn't really going to share what I had edited, but I had said that I had a full poem from the last 10-minute session. And you brought up a great point when you said, you think something's finished. I don't know that a poem is ever finished. I've had things published that I was like, oh, wow, I think I would change that if I had the chance to, to do that. But even reading it out loud, I realized there were some places immediately, that I'm like, oh, that didn't flow very well or whatever. So I was able to make some changes already, and I'll set it aside and I'll come back to it, of course. And when I type it up, I'll make changes. But yeah, I've already seen some places, and it's exciting. I haven't written in a while, so this was exciting to do, and I'm thrilled to be back in the process. So.
Ah, that's great. You brought up an excellent point, and that is to read it out loud. Because I know for me, I have poems that are in my books, and then I'll go to read them out loud to people, and I think, yikes, I should have maybe had a line break over here, or, done something a little different. Or I had something like Parmigiano Reggiano, and I was like, was that a good choice? I don't know, because sometimes when I'm reading it, I'm like, Parmigiano. I don't know. I'm not saying it right. So I think it's awesome to read it out loud. And thank you for sharing that. So we just have a few minutes. I just wanted to go over just a couple of things. So if you weren't already, you have become a poet. And Um, just so this place of being vulnerable and really delving into some memories or thinking about things. I mean, it's not something where you can, be in that mode all the time. It's a lot. So take it easy on yourself. That's why making a space sometimes is a really good idea, because you can go there and then you can come out of it. So just be aware of that. Sometimes, you know, um, I will say that when there are times when I feel that I'm very vulnerable, and actually I might take the time to try to write a poem then, but just be aware of your energy and, giving yourself a break if you need it. Okay. Um, and one of the things that my editor is always on me about is reading. So I think it's important to read poetry. For me, I like to find poets that I can relate to. It's easier to digest what they're saying. Billy Collins, Mary Oliver, um, just some poets that I can relate to, and when I read their poems, it helps me. And what it does is those words kind of fill you up, and then you're ready to write. So if you've got writer's block, um, give it a try. Try reading a bunch of poems, and then see if you can write again. Another thing that I do is I like to listen to music, and I love the lyrics and things like that. That's another way to kind of get things going. Also, I encourage people to go places that inspire you. Do things that inspire you or make you feel happy. Um, I just did. I played guitar for a couple of years, and I just went to a ladies rock camp, and I played an electric guitar. And there's so many stories that are coming from that, and probably a poem or two. So I recommend that if you feel comfortable keeping a journal. I will tell you, for me, it's hard to keep a journal, as it were, like Dear Diary. This is what happened today, and this is how I felt about such and such. But rather, I keep journals that talk about what happened during a trip or a certain thing, and more like a reporter, right? So that I can remember it, and then I can go back and check in those feelings at that time. Also, I started keeping a journal that is just about how I am remarkable because. And this is just a listing of things that I did during the day that make me feel remarkable. So those are a couple of things. I also encourage you to share with friends, and um, maybe you can get things published. And if not, you can always self-publish. I've self-published my books, and I'm working on a third one. And no looking back. It's been great. Um, so final thoughts, what's next? Like we said, read, write, share. Maybe you want to get some friends together and um, form a little poetry group, meet at a coffee shop with MJ, and have some coffee and share your work. And then finally, I just wanted to say I would love to keep in touch. You can find me online on Facebook, Instagram. There's my email, my website. I do have a blog that I do every other week-ish. And, it's just observations, things that I think about and inspire me. So I just wanted to thank you guys today for coming on this journey, being vulnerable, sharing, all great stuff, and I truly appreciate it. I'm gonna see if anybody had any final comments.
I was just,
Anybody? Okay, go ahead, Wendy.
oh, I was just wondering if you could read your contact information out loud. It's hard to read it on the screen for me. It's really small.
Okay.
Or put
Yeah,
it in the chat.
I'll try to expand it too. Sure. Let's see here. I will do that. Maybe I can copy paste even. Oh, that would be advanced. Okay. Anybody else have anything that they wanted to share?
just want to know when your next, when's your next one? I'd love to do this again soon.
Oh, my next workshop? Okay, full disclosure, this was my first workshop.
Ah,
So,
congratulations.
yeah, extra thanks to
Wow.
everyone on the call. But well, hopefully I will be invited back next year to this festival. But like I said, you can find me online and things like that. But feel free to be in touch. I'd love to hear from you guys.
Will do.
Yeah. And I hope to make it to New York
Wow.
sometime, so we can have that coffee.
We sure
right.
can. I'll introduce you to floral coffees.
Okay, I just decided to tell people I don't like lavender, right? Rose is fine, but I have this friend, we've been friends forever, and she's always giving me like lavender lotion and lavender this, and I finally said, I need to tell you something. I don't like lavender. She's like, what else are you holding back from me?
But didn't you feel empowered after you did that? That you've been holding it back for so long, and then when you finally was able to tell that person, you're like, dang, that feels better.
Yes, standing in your truth. That's what
There you
I'm
go.
saying, right?
Awesome. Awesome.